Okay, so let's just dive right in. If you're looking at Hinduism from the outside, the sheer number and variety of gods can seem, well, wonderfully strange and maybe even a little overwhelming. It's this dazzling, vibrant world of deities that really challenges a lot of Western ideas about what religion is supposed to look like. So, what's the deal? What's really going on here? I mean, just get a load of these descriptions from our source material. You've got Ganesha with the head of an elephant, who's this symbol of wisdom and clearing away obstacles. Then you have Krishna, this totally beloved, playful, charming god. And then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have someone like Kali, a terrifying goddess who's literally wearing a necklace of skulls. How can all these wildly different figures possibly exist in the same tradition? And it's not just the variety, right? It's the sheer number. You hear this figure thrown around a lot, that there are 330 million gods in Hinduism. Now, to be clear, that's not a literal census. It's a poetic number, a way of saying that the divine is truly countless. But it frames our central question perfectly. Why so many? And this gets us to a really deep theological puzzle. If you believe that the ultimate divine reality is infinite, that it's limitless, how do you, a finite human being, even begin to approach that? How can our little minds possibly connect with something so vast? Well, different traditions have come up with some radically different answers. You can really see two profoundly different approaches here. On one hand, you have the Abrahamic traditions, think Judaism and Islam, which generally say you should not make images of God. The logic makes sense, right? Any picture you draw is going to limit the limitless, and that's a form of idolatry. The Hindu view, though, takes the exact opposite approach. It says, because God is infinite, you should never stop creating ways to represent God. No single image could ever capture the whole thing. So the answer isn't to stop, but to embrace an endless, joyful multiplicity. And here's the crucial point. Underneath all of this variety, there is a single, ultimate reality. And that reality is called Brahman. Now, it's really important to get this. Brahman isn't a being like a king on a throne in the sky. It's much more fundamental than that. It's the very fabric of existence, the ground of all being. It's pure consciousness and bliss itself. And here's where it gets really personal. That universal cosmic reality has a little counterpart inside every single one of us. In Hindu thought, this is the Atman. It's your true self, your soul. It's not your personality or your ego or what you had for breakfast. It's that deep, eternal, unchanging spark of pure consciousness. And this brings us to one of the most powerful and honestly mind-bending statements in all of philosophy. Tat Twam Asi. It translates to, thou art that. What it means is that your individual soul, your Atman, is one and the same as the ultimate reality, Brahman. You're not separate from the divine. You are the divine. So, let's circle all the way back to our original question. Those millions of gods, they aren't a chaotic jumble of separate beings. They're understood as different windows, different flavors, different expressions of that one single formless reality of Brahman. Each and every deity is a face that helps the human mind connect with a reality that is ultimately faceless and infinite. So now that we've got that philosophical foundation laid, let's actually meet some of the major players, the most popular manifestations of this one reality. Most of the deities you'll hear about tend to fall into one of three main streams of devotion. First, you have Vishnu, who's the preserver and protector. Then there's Shiva, the great transformer and dissolver. And then you have Devi, the great goddess, who represents Shakti, which is the active, creative energy of the entire cosmos. She's the power that makes everything happen. Let's zoom in on Vishnu for a moment. His main job, you could say, is to maintain cosmic order and look out for humanity. And he's got this really amazing feature. Whenever things get really, truly bad on Earth, he actually comes down in a physical form, an avatar, to set things right again. And his two most beloved avatars really show you the incredible range of the divine. You've got Krishna, playful, charming, the flute-playing lover whose stories are all about having a direct, intimate, and loving relationship with God. And then you have Rama, the hero of the epic Ramayana, who represents the ideal of dharma, of righteousness, duty, and honor. Two very different personalities, same divine source. Now, if you want to talk about complexity, let's talk about Shiva. This deity is basically a walking bundle of contradictions, and that's what makes him so profound. On the one hand, he's the ultimate yogi, meditating alone in the mountains. But he's also the perfect family man. He's the lord of destruction, hanging out in cremation grounds. Yet, his cosmic dance is what creates and sustains the entire universe. He contains it all. And we absolutely cannot forget Devi, the goddess. She is Shakti, the raw power, the energy that makes the universe tick. And her forms are just as varied as the male gods. She can appear as Lakshmi, the gentle provider of wealth and good fortune. Or she can be Durga, this magnificent warrior goddess riding a lion into battle. And she can even be the terrifying Kali, who helps people confront their deepest fears about death and time itself. Okay, so that's who the deities are. But how do over 1 billion Hindus actually connect with this dazzling array of divinity? Well, that brings us to the actual practices of worship. A really central concept you need to know is called darshan. This is so much more than just looking at a statue in a temple. It's the sacred experience of seeing the divine, and this is the crucial part, of being seen by the divine. It's a moment of direct, personal, visual connection, where that image becomes a real focal point for the deity's presence. The most common ritual is called puja, and honestly, the best way to understand it is as an act of sacred hospitality. You're literally treating the deity as an honored guest in your home or temple. You offer things like food, flowers, incense, and light, and at the end, that food is returned to you as a blessed gift called prasad, so you can actually internalize that divine blessing. And this devotion isn't just a private thing. It spills out into these huge, amazing public celebrations. You have Diwali, the Festival of Lights, celebrating Rama's heroic return. You have Holi, this joyous explosion of color that celebrates Krishna's divine playfulness. And you have Durga Puja, a massive festival celebrating the victory of the goddess over evil. Each one is a living, breathing retelling of these divine stories. And if you really want a sense of the sheer scale of this devotion, just look at the Kumbh Mela pilgrimage. A single one of these festivals has drawn over 60 million people. That is the largest peaceful gathering of human beings in the history of the planet, all coming together for a common spiritual purpose. It's just incredible. So, how does this grand cosmic vision translate into everyday life? Well, you've probably seen or heard the greeting Namaste. It's often said to have this incredibly profound meaning that's rooted in everything we've just talked about. The divine in me bows to the divine in you. It's a simple, daily recognition of that shared divine spark, that Atman, that exists in everyone. Ultimately, what you get is a system that is just inherently pluralistic. It means a person can choose to focus all their worship on, say, Krishna, and see him as the supreme form of God, without ever needing to believe that someone who worships Shiva is wrong. They're just connecting with a different manifestation of the very same ultimate reality. And that brings us right back to where we started. The 330 million gods are not a sign of confusion or chaos. They actually represent a deep philosophical commitment to exploring the infinite. It's a dazzling, never-ending, beautiful attempt to give form to the formless and to give a name to the unnameable. So, I'll just leave you with this final thought to chew on. What if we took this idea really seriously? The idea that the divine isn't some distant king on a throne, but is the very consciousness that animates you, me, and the entire cosmos. If you truly believe that, if you felt that, how might it change the way you see the world and every single person in it?